We've just got some breaking news in from Buckingham Palace, folks. So this statement has just come in from Buckingham Palace, and I'll read it for you. It goes on to say, His Majesty has today initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles, and...
4 minutes were enough to change the crown forever. Inside a tense royal meeting, a decision was placed before Charles that could strip Camilla of the Queen Consort title and hand it to Catherine. No warning had prepared Camilla for what came next. As the final wording was revealed, the room fell silent. Charles refused to intervene, and Camilla realized the decision had been made before she arrived. Then, in front of those closest to the crown, her strength failed. Before we uncover the secret decision behind this royal crisis, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss latest. Camilla stared at the document as though the words might change if she waited long enough. Charles sat beside her, motionless, while the council secretary continued reading the settlement that would alter the balance of the royal household. Catherine remained across the chamber with William, her expression controlled and uneasy. No one in the room celebrated. The decision was too serious for that. The Queen Consort title, once regarded as the final confirmation of Camilla's place beside the king, was being reassigned. Then the secretary reached the sentence that made the decision irreversible. Camilla looked toward Charles. He still said nothing. Her eyes narrowed as she searched his face for an explanation, but the king offered only silence. She rose slowly, gripping the table for support, and then collapsed. Aides hurried toward her as William stepped forward and Catherine froze. For several seconds, nobody seemed to understand what they were seeing. When Camilla finally regained enough strength to speak, she looked directly at Charles. "You knew." The accusation changed the atmosphere immediately. Charles had expected anger, but hearing those words made the decision feel personal in a way the document never could. William helped clear the room while Catherine stayed behind, visibly shaken. She had received the title, but she could not ignore the cost attached to it. Later, William discovered that the settlement had been prepared weeks earlier. The council had not gathered that morning to debate an uncertain proposal. Members had already examined reports concerning Camilla's authority, ceremonial responsibilities, and disagreements with senior household officials. The meeting had been the final stage. Camilla had walked into the chamber believing she could defend herself. Instead, she had entered after the outcome was nearly complete. That discovery forced William to reconsider everything he had heard during the previous months. Catherine had not demanded Camilla's removal. He had not requested it either. Yet the decision had still reached the king's desk. Charles eventually entered the private room where Camilla was recovering. She refused to look at him. He explained that he had known a change was being discussed, but claimed he had not expected the final settlement to take effect so quickly. Camilla answered that this distinction no longer mattered. If he knew enough to understand the danger, he should have warned her. Charles had no immediate response. The marriage that had once seemed capable of protecting them from royal pressure had reached a point where duty had become stronger than trust. Meanwhile, Catherine returned to William and admitted that she feared the title would forever be associated with Camilla's humiliation. William told her that refusing it now would create another crisis, but Catherine remained troubled. She had never imagined that her elevation would begin with another woman's collapse. Before leaving the palace, she asked to see the full council dossier. That mattered. What she found inside would reveal why the dispute had started long before that morning, and why Charles had accepted the council's recommendation despite knowing the cost. The dossier contained months of correspondence, ceremonial reports, and private objections. One entry repeatedly appeared beside the names of senior officials: Windsor. 3 months earlier, a closed rehearsal had been arranged to settle the order of a future royal ceremony. Camilla believed the meeting was routine. Instead, she challenged an arrangement that placed Catherine closer to William and ordered the younger woman moved farther back. Camilla argued that her own position beside the sovereign should remain unmistakable. William objected. He said the arrangement reflected the responsibilities Catherine was gradually assuming and warned that changing it without approval could create confusion about the monarchy's future structure. Catherine asked both of them to stop before the disagreement became worse, but the room had already become uncomfortable. A senior official recorded what happened. That report later reached Charles. He quietly restored the original arrangement and avoided confronting Camilla publicly. He believed silence would make the incident disappear. Instead, the written record became the first major piece of evidence against her. Months later, the council reviewed it alongside other concerns. The issue was no longer simply ceremonial placement. Officials believed Camilla's personal decisions were beginning to conflict with plans for the monarchy's next stage. Catherine learned this and became increasingly uneasy. She told William that any change involving Camilla should be handled carefully. She did not want to inherit a title through what appeared to be punishment. William agreed, but neither could control the council. When Camilla finally confronted Catherine, she demanded a direct answer. Had Catherine helped create the settlement? Catherine said she knew discussions were happening, but denied requesting the transfer. She also revealed that she had encouraged William to support a delay. Camilla was surprised. She realized Catherine might not be driving the decision. Then she asked the question that mattered most. Who had actually demanded the change? Catherine told her to read the authorization page. Camilla found several signatures, but Charles's name was the one she could not ignore. Her husband had approved the settlement. That discovery changed the conflict completely. Charles had accepted the council's argument. The king admitted he had resisted the transfer because he feared the damage it would cause inside his family. But the council argued that preserving Camilla's title while her authority was being questioned would create a larger constitutional and ceremonial problem. Catherine's responsibilities were expanding. William's future role was becoming more visible. The palace was already preparing for a transition Camilla refused to believe was approaching. Charles finally decided that delaying the decision would only make the eventual change more painful. He signed the settlement. That signature became the moment when private hesitation turned into official action. By the next morning, the consequences were visible throughout the palace. Camilla's schedule had changed. Meetings had been reassigned. Briefing papers were being delivered to different offices. Even small staff decisions carried a message that she could not ignore. The title had disappeared, and the institution was adapting faster than she could. Camilla noticed the changes before anyone formally explained them. A folder that normally arrived with her morning briefing was missing. A ceremonial meeting had been removed from her calendar. Staff members who once waited for her instructions now received direction elsewhere. Together, they made the loss impossible to deny. Charles tried to reassure her that her charitable work would continue. Camilla told him that the work was not what she feared losing. She feared losing the place from which she had performed it. The title had given her recognition, access, and proof that the years of controversy had finally led somewhere. Now the palace was quietly reorganizing itself around Catherine. Then Catherine made an unexpected choice. She refused to take over Camilla's former private office immediately. She instructed staff to leave Camilla's belongings untouched and said the room should remain hers until she decided what to do. When Camilla heard this, her anger softened. Catherine was not celebrating. She understood the burden she had inherited. That evening, Camilla asked Catherine to meet privately. There were no advisors and no officials present. Camilla admitted that she had blamed Catherine because accepting what Charles had done was harder. Catherine listened and explained that she had never wanted the title to arrive this way. She knew that every public appearance would be connected to the moment Camilla collapsed. Camilla then asked whether Catherine intended to take over everything attached to her years of service. Catherine said she would not erase Camilla's work. The transition concerned the formal role, not every cause Camilla had built. For the first time, they could speak without the council, the king, or the succession between them. Before the meeting ended, Camilla handed Catherine several pages of handwritten notes. They contained practical lessons about royal pressure, difficult ceremonies, and responsibilities that were never included in official briefings. Catherine accepted them quietly. It was not an apology or surrender. It acknowledged that the transition was permanent. Outside, their private understanding meant little. News of the title change spread rapidly. Television networks interrupted regular coverage, newspapers prepared dramatic headlines, and crowds gathered near royal residences. The public saw Catherine's elevation as a transformation, while others focused on Camilla's loss. William watched the coverage beside Catherine and reminded her that the country would expect confidence from her. Catherine understood, but she also knew confidence could easily be mistaken for celebration. Camilla watched the same reports from a room. Hearing commentators describe her years beside Charles as finished made the loss feel different. Inside the council chamber, the title had disappeared in silence. Outside, millions were now discussing what it meant. At the family's first appearance after the announcement, every camera would search for victory, resentment, or reconciliation. But the truth was more complicated. Catherine had gained the title, Camilla had lost it, Charles had protected the institution at a personal cost, and William had inherited the responsibility of keeping the family together. The next public appearance would reveal whether the crown could survive the decision without allowing the private wounds to become permanent. The crown had made its decision, but nobody truly emerged as the winner. Camilla lost the title she believed represented the final chapter of her journey. Catherine inherited a position surrounded by responsibility, scrutiny, and the memory of how it changed hands. And Charles was left facing the personal consequences of placing the monarchy above the trust of his marriage. The decision was final. One chapter had ended, and the royal family had entered a new and uncertain future. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.